Senior officials from the US, Israel, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Bahrain and Morocco will convene in Abu Dhabi for a meeting of the Negev Forum to discuss regional integration. The meeting comes amid rising tensions in the region. This week's two-day conference in Abu Dhabi will be the first time that the working groups will meet to discuss tangible regional projects. The Negev Summit was first convened in Israel in March last year. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, the then Israeli Foreign Minister Yair Lapid, and the foreign ministers of the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco and Egypt attended the same. The meeting ended with an agreement to turn it into an ongoing regional framework to increase cooperation and to add more countries to the process. This year, it was initially unclear whether the new government in Israel would continue to participate in the process. The fog of uncertainty was cleared after Foreign Minister Eli Cohen had expressed commitment to the forum in a recent phone call with Blinken. Now, also this year, Jordan will be the only Arab country with full diplomatic relations with Israel that will not be sending a delegation for the summit. Now, for more on this, we're being joined by our correspondent, Jody Cohen, with the latest on this. Hello to you, Jody. Now, internationally, what is going on with reference to the Negev summit, also the Abraham Accords and expansion? Where is this headed?
Hi, Alison. Yes, so we're seeing somewhat mixed messages. Last week, the UAE sponsored the UN Security Council emergency meeting over that controversial visit by Itamar Ben-Gvir to the Temple Mount Al-Aqsa compound, which the Arab countries said was amounted to a storming of the compound. Israel said that they didn't break any rules of the status quo. Now, this week, as you said, the UAE is hosting a meeting of the Negev Forum Steering Committee. And remember that forum are Arab countries that have made peace with Israel, both in the Abraham Accords and in previous agreements. So it appears that they're still on track. This working group, the meetings now are going to be going on until Tuesday. They're preparing for a summit that's expected to take place in Morocco sometime in the spring. Now, we know that Jordan refuses to attend forum meetings without the Palestinians. The Palestinians won't cooperate with this because it's a normalization initiative. Israel doesn't appear to have any interest in getting the Palestinians involved at this stage. We know that the US is also trying to get Jordan involved and will brief the Palestinians on what goes on. And with news just in, we're hearing that Secretary of State Blinken is going to be visiting Israel at the end of January. So there'll be lots to discuss. And this follows another meeting that was hosted by the UAE ambassador with Israel's new foreign minister, Eli Cohen. And interestingly, ambassadors from the US, India, Bahrain, Morocco, Germany, France and the UK. So it appears that lots of diplomacy is going on. The US position hasn't changed, but this administration, that the Negev Forum, they say, is not a substitute for efforts on the Israeli-Palestinian front. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this forum and of those meetings.
Right, Jody. And on the domestic front, what is the latest and how is this being received?
So there have been two big announcements this morning. The first one is that the finance minister, Smotrich, says that Israel will be blocking $40 million in tax revenue from the Palestinian Authority, deducting the amounts that's been paid by the PA in salaries to terrorists and redirecting it to the families of terror victims. Smotrich was asked if this could lead to a collapse of the Palestinian Authority, to which he reportedly responded that as long as the PA encourages terror, he has no interest in its existence. So this move is seen to be Israel's response to what it calls Palestinian lawfare, which are the PA's international legal actions against Israel. And in another move, it was announced this morning that the government is hoping to pass the judicial reform bills by the spring. Now, there's been big protests over the weekend with between 10 and 20,000 participants protesting these judicial reforms. Now, many members of parliament agree that some sort of judicial reform is necessary, even members of the opposition. But there is big concern about the override clause, which would enable the Knesset to override the court's override of what the parliament wants to pass with just a simple majority. Now, the former Supreme Court President Aharon Barak said that these reforms would lead to a tyranny of the majority. The government says that the reforms would actually just reverse the reforms that the Barak put in place in the 1990s, which increased the power of the judiciary over parliament. Commentators do agree that these are arguably the biggest changes ever to Israel's system of government, and the MPs do need time to debate the details. So there's been protests we've seen over the weekend. There's been criticism internationally and nationally, but the government is holding firm that they believe that these are the right changes to implement.
Right. Jody, thank you very much for bringing us all the latest details coming out of Israel. WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.